him in to present. Wamanga, this is a proposal, so you have 15 minutes from the time Dr. Triza ushers you in. Don't spend too much time on the background and so on. The meat of this thing is in your objectives, your research questions, your hypotheses, and then chapter 3 is really carrying the weight. So if you spend half your time in doing background and so on, then you're not using your time well. Dr. Triza Okoth.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm one of the supervisors for Dr. for Amos Wamanga. Amos is our CIT student, and he's also a teacher at Kakawega High School. So I believe we said you should know people. Next time you want a Form 1 to join the national school, then you know who to talk to. So Amos will be delving into the issue of technology and the teaching of the sciences. Specifically, he will give us more from the study. So I'd like to welcome him to make his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Triza and Chair.
Proceed, Amos. It's now 10:43. You've got 20 minutes. 15 minutes from that from the time now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to share about the efficacy.
Can you do slideshow?
Slideshow, yes.
If possible. That should be actually the ideal. But if you are unable to, then just proceed.
No, let me just do. Are we okay there?
Okay, it's not transiting to begin, but it's all right. Just proceed so that we save time.
All right. Thank you. Presenting on the efficacy.
Go to your slide 1. You are on slide 17, at least on my side. So go to your slide 1 and then transit.
Okay. Stop. Let me just stop sharing briefly so I get back. Okay. Thank you. Sorry for that. My name is Amos Wamanga, presenting on efficacy of integration of virtual classrooms in the implementation of physics curriculum. Straight away, efficacy, we're simply talking about what is the effect or what is the power that is supposed to add on the virtual classrooms, and integration is simply referring to the combination of 2 or more things so that we can achieve better results. And then virtual classrooms referring to online spaces that share a lot with the normal mortar and brick classrooms, which have the opportunity for the learners and the facilitators to interact in a real time. Now, to the background. virtual classrooms have been defined to be having some of the solutions to the issues that we had in real life, such as the COVID-19 that prompted the closure of schools and other institutions of learning. And most educators sat down and realized that virtual classrooms can aid in solving such pertinent issues in society. And virtual classrooms, as I had earlier on indicated, are basically online spaces that can enable learners and facilitators to interact. Now, what is the problem here? The problem is that the COVID-19 came about without notice. It was an eventuality. And in that particular...
Kindly move your slides, even if they are just on the home page. Kindly move them. Yeah, just be clicking so that we can follow.
Okay. I don't know why it is.
Or maybe it's a peculiar problem to me. Just proceed.
True, I'm also experiencing this side, Dr.
It's all of us.
Okay, then it is it's a big problem on your side. You need to transit. Click on the next one to see if it can't, then
Can I share with Teresa who can project for him?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Kindly share with Teresa.
Okay.
Teresa, are you able to project for him?
No, I'll share with you because I'm just from the phone. So I'll
Okay.
share with you, share. Yeah.
All right. Send it to SEDU GSC at must.ac.ke.
Sorry, SEDU.
SEDU GSC, SEDU Graduate Studies Committee, one word, lowercase,
Okay.
at must.ac.ke.
All right. Let me just do it right away.
Meanwhile, if Professor Odera can unmute, he had wanted to have an input into Sylvia's work.
Yeah, it's okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Chair, those are very many minutes lost. Could we be attending to another student meanwhile?
Dr. I have shared.
You are. I haven't seen that. I've just refreshed my SEDU email. Okay, try to approach. Now I can see you've put it up in slideshow.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Sorry for the time lost. So I've already moved to the background of the information, and I said that the novel COVID-19 was one of the worst pandemics that ever happened to humankind, and it affected a lot of aspects of life, and the educational system was more affected. And educationists moved around and felt that virtual classrooms were the best alternative for this particular eventualities, and that today's classrooms will have to share some of the features of the brick and mortar classes in that manner. So that virtual classrooms, they make use of pre-recorded components such as videos and presentations and lecture slides that can facilitate or aid learning. So this current study shall be carried out to ascertain the efficacy of integration of the virtual classrooms in the implementation of physics curriculum. And to achieve this, a study shall be carried out in Kakamega Central Sub-County, which shall be done through simple random sampling and stratified random sampling. Now, statement of the problem, that virtual classrooms, having been identified to be able to offer solutions to such eventualities such as the COVID-19, and today, even the floods that have made schools not to open until further notice, educators are using different mobile platforms to communicate this with the students and even receive the feedbacks by use of Google Meet, Zoom, and so forth. Now, what's the problem here? The problem is that virtual classrooms came in, COVID-19 came in without prior preparations. And as we are, most schools and education institutions are already offering the online virtual classrooms just to enrich the traditional classrooms. But then there is a gap. Where is the gap? There is a gap between the number of schools offering the virtual classrooms and those that do not have. And even for those that are offering, there is a gap in those facilitators who are well-trained and those who are not well-trained. And trained or not trained, then this particular study needs to look at what is the effectiveness of the implementation of virtual classrooms. There have been a lot of studies with regard to that, but there is little literature on the effectiveness of the integration of the virtual classrooms in the physics curriculum. Now, my research objectives, which you said should be my key things, number one is to establish the status of adoption and application of the virtual classrooms in the physics. Classrooms in secondary schools in Kenya, what is the state as we speak? Because after the COVID-19 went, we had some who started off the adoption. And then what is the state? And if there is, then the next objective will be to determine then to what extent are these particular physics teachers integrating these virtual classrooms. Having done all that, then it will also be proper that we look at gathering information about their perception of the teachers on the use of the virtual classrooms. That will, of course, be in line with the research questions, status, the extent, and the perception of the teachers on the virtual classrooms. Now, what significance is this study? This study will really be of a lot of significance to the teacher education institutions, so that as they develop their curriculum, they do that in line with preparing this particular teacher trainees with relevant information with regards to virtual classrooms. It will be of importance, again, to the KICD, same as they work on details of the curriculum, which must involve the use of virtual classrooms. It will be of importance to the practicing teachers so that they can check what are the barriers and enablers of the use of virtual classrooms, so that they see how to delimit the barriers and, of course, improve on the enablers. It will be of importance to the learners, now that research has been done and proved that virtual classrooms have always given out improved learning in the learners. The findings shall also provide or add to the information of already knowledge that is existing with regards to the virtual classrooms. Now, the theoretical framework here will be on two theoretical dimensions. One is the Mishra and the Kohler's TPAC model, which talks about aspect of the technological part of it, the pedagogical part of it, how the teachers can give the information and the content knowledge. Like we understand today, most of the teachers have the content knowledge. Some might have the pedagogical knowledge. And then now how do we infuse all that into the technological knowledge? Then the next one will be the Rogers 1995 innovation theory, which seeks to explain how innovation or a new idea can be taken up in a society, which of course will have to refer to aspects such as effectiveness, compatibility, and how it can be tried. You understand well that in line with the CBC, where we have digital literacy as one of the core competencies. Infusion of these virtual classrooms in the implementation of the curriculum will be working very hard, very well to sustain that. Now, the conceptual framework, this particular study shall have independent variables, intervening variables, and independent variables, where the independent variables will be the access to the ICT infrastructure, the competencies in ICT of the teachers, and then the perception of maybe the key players in terms of ICT. The dependent variable shall be the effectiveness of the integration of the virtual classroom in the implementation of the curriculum, and the intervening variables will be the attitude, sufficient time, and maybe motivation and other policies such as the government policy. It has been outlined there, where we have the intervening variables, the dependent variables, and the independent variables as highlighted earlier on there. Now, limitations of this study: one, that it shall be taken in Kakamega County, Kakamega Central, which may not be a true of the whole country. Then, of course, some of the questions on innovation innovations might not be very well conversant with the respondents, though the research shall always try to be more focused so that the purpose of the research is achieved. Now, literature review, Amos 2015 conducted a study and realized that between virtual classrooms and the normal classrooms, and it was indicated that there was a significant difference between learners who did virtual classrooms and those who did the traditional classroom. Another study was done by Halil in their master dissertation, which also came up that there was a significant difference between the achievement between the learners who did virtual classrooms and those who did the normal classroom, meaning that virtual classrooms have got an edge slightly over the traditional classroom, but a combination of the two can really give us better. Sampling, stratified random sampling shall be used to categorize schools in the national category, extra county, and so forth, for boys only, girls only, mixed day schools, and day and boarding schools. Then simple random sampling shall be applied to select students, physics teachers, and the school principals. Data collection shall be done through the questionnaires, questionnaires and interview schedules that shall be submitted to the schools that shall have been part of the sample, and the collection can take about 3 months. In chapter 3, we're talking about this study shall adopt a descriptive survey research design, and the sample shall be selected through stratified random sampling for the schools as earlier indicated, and questionnaires with relevant questions to the achievement of the state objectives shall be administered to the respondents, which shall include the educators, students, and principals of schools. The target population shall be the 28 principals of Kakamega Central Sub-County, and then teachers of physics, and about a sample of 10 principals and about 13 teachers shall be selected in that particular study. And the study instrument shall include the questionnaires, which will be for students and teachers, and then, of course, interview schedules for the principals. A pilot study shall be carried out to establish the validity and reliability of the research instruments, and content analysis shall be used to analyze the qualitative data, while descriptive statistics shall be used to analyze the quantitative data. The data collection procedure, procedure number 1 is on, where the researcher shall seek approval to carry out research from NACOSTI after obtaining an introductory letter from a Sindham River Research Office. Then, of course, ethical considerations shall be put in place, and the purpose of the study shall be explained to the respondents, where they'll have their informed consent before commencement of the study, and that the respondents shall also be instructed not to indicate names, their names or names of their schools anywhere in the questionnaire. And of course, the respondents shall be assured of their utmost confidentiality. The instruments I've already mentioned, where we have to pick from those particular interviews, we shall have to pick views and experience, maybe beliefs, attitudes, and motivation of the participants in a specific manner with regards to the use of virtual classrooms in the teaching and learning of physics. And of course, in the questionnaire, we shall have information about the participants' background on the years of teaching and the experience and the level of their education. And then, of course, we'll also pick information about the frequency on the use of the virtual classrooms in their teaching and learning. Data analysis, the data that have been collected shall be cleaned, organized, analyzed, and then interpreted. Qualitative data shall be received verbatim, transcribed, and reported in themes and sub-themes. Then, of course, use of critical thinking to synthesize the data, examine the interviews for the teacher's insights, and utilize the data from the interviews to corroborate with the findings from other data sources. Quantitative data shall be analyzed using descriptive statistics, such as frequency counts, percentages, and the data shall be presented in form of tables, bar graphs, and pie charts. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you, Amos. You've been within your time given the lapses that we had. Allow me to therefore introduce and bring in your reviewer, Dr. Eric Kesa Wangila. Is a member of faculty in CIT department, and he reviewed your work. So allow me to bring in Dr. Wangila. Dr. Wangila, you've got 10 minutes to raise salient issues with Amos. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Amos, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Wangila.
Thank you for your presentation. I've read your work. And maybe to start us off, is this presentations we are having now a form of video conferencing or virtual classroom that your study is all about?
This is a virtual, a video conferencing tool.
So actually what we are talking about is depicted by what is ongoing now.
Yes, yes. With the flags around, but we are still moving on with the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Generally, I've gone through your documents. The general observation is that you need maybe to consult the formats from the DPS when you are auto-generating your table of contents. You need to be sure what you are doing. Like the current document which I have, your entire statement of the problem is part of the table of content. That notwithstanding, there is an issue with grammar, an issue with the coherent flow of your ideas, particularly in the background. And also there is a lot of cut and pastes that you have not tried to paraphrase or rephrase or to put it in your own words. When I read your background, you have not explicitly contextualized the problem. And at this point in time, maybe I would ask you, what is the problem? You could answer this one before we proceed. What is the problem?
Thank you, Dr. The problem is the COVID-19. Then why is it a problem?
Excuse me?
Yes.
You said the problem is COVID-19?
Yes. And why is it a problem is that it came in without unexpected. And of course, it affected the normal day-to-day life. And this necessitated that we come up with different or new ways of doing things, especially learning. And that is when our lessons came in. But then,
so Amos, go slow.
All right.
Let's look at your title. The problem is COVID-19. it came in abruptly. Let's look at your title. Efficacy of integration of virtual classroom in the implementation of physics curriculum. Where is COVID-19?
So the problem here, I think, is the unexpected end or unexpected seamless operation in which learning can happen, which of course COVID-19 is just one of them, just like we also have the floods today, that we have got several eventualities that may come in to stop the learning processes. And virtual classrooms can come in as a solution. So we are looking at how effective are they together with the normal day-to-day traditional classrooms. Yes, Dr.
I wanted to agree with your confusion that actually you have not brought out the problem. And you have not put your finger on the problem, which now becomes a serious issue in the general write-up. You need maybe to consult with your supervisors and explicitly bring out what the problem is. A reader, and indeed yourself, you are unable to tell us what the problem is. Back to the topic title. What are your dependent and independent variables from your title?
I was to answer now, Dr.
Yes, they are key because they are going to guide the continuing discourse.
Okay. The independent variables will be the ICT infrastructures, ICT devices, and of course the pedagogical content and the technological knowledge about ICT. And then of course the intervening variables will be the motivation and maybe the motivation and the attitude of the teachers, which will lead to the dependent variable, which is the the independent variable, which is the effectiveness of the integration of the virtual classrooms in the implementation of the physics curriculum.
Commander, are you able to single out the dependent and independent variables in the title?
Yes, the integration of the integration, and then of course the virtual classrooms, and then the efficacy, the effectiveness of the integration of the virtual classrooms.
Thank you. You need again to get to your supervisors. Then as we move down, your general purpose of the study does not speak to the title. I don't know if you have a copy. I should not be reading from my end here. The general purpose of your study does not speak to the title. Any comment on that, you will comment later.
Okay.
And I'm looking at your objectives. When you look at the objective number 2, how do you measure the extent? Similarly, in objective number 3, when you talk of you'd want to gather the insights, the word insight in this objective is quite ambiguous. And objective number 4, when you talk of explore the challenges and opportunities, when I read part of your background, you have adequately demonstrated that literature is rich on the challenges and opportunities. So I don't understand the relevancy of objective number 4, but still, what will be the unit of measurement in objective number 3 and objective number 4. That brings me to your assumptions. And in the assumption, Amos, you are assuming that high school students in Kakamega County use social network sites. They use social network sites. Is this in school or at home? And what is the policy on the use of mobile telephony by students in our school now? The second assumption, you are assuming that high school students in Kakamega have access to internet while in school and at home. Yet, you have already talked about the different socio-economic and geographical backgrounds that affect both learners and students, and therefore access to some of this. Is it still proper that you make such an assumption? On the operational definition of terms, this one you need to relook at it and do some justice. Okay, then in chapter 2, we have got titles that do not communicate, subtitles that are ambiguous. The example is item 2.6, 2.7, and 2.12. When you look at those subtitles under chapter 2, they are not communicating at all when you read. Like when you talk of 2.6, you are saying teachers virtual classroom efficacy. What do you mean, virtual classroom? And at the same time, there is use of video conferencing and virtual classroom interchangeably. Maybe do they mean the same? Then as we move to chapter 3, maybe as a school we need to take a stand on this, colleagues. There's a lot of notes, students giving notes, trying to explain what research is, what research design is. I thought maybe if somebody wants to know what research design, they should just pay fees and they also get taught. But you tell us the research design we are using blah blah as you go. The issue I want you to justify or to tell us is, why do you want to do this study in Kakamega County? And another question that you need to justify, why use Form 3 students? And what is the source of the data in your population? You are giving us various figures, 10,000, 6,000, 400. What is the source of these statistics that you are using under population? Then in the same chapter, there is a place where like 3.4, it is study population. Then immediately after study population, there is another subtitle that is not labeled either 3.41 or something. It is called target population. And the same narrative under study population is repeated under target population. Are they different? Or is just an aspect of verbiage that needs to be looked at? Then at that point, starting from 3.4 in chapter 4, the tense that you are using in your study predominantly takes on past participle. Form 3 students were used since they were, and they could. This study was carried out. The question is, are you plagiarizing someone's work? Has this study been done? Or it's when you are planning to do it? Then when it comes to sample size, under sample size, you have not given us any sampling frame from which you use to derive or arrive at the figures that you are talking about. 28 secondary schools, 10 shall be selected, 10 secondary schools, okay, 250 form 4s shall be. How are you arriving at these figures? It is an aspect that we need to look at. On the issue of the questionnaires, the tools and all that, there is need that you identify the tool, then you tell us whether it will be adopted or you will develop, then give a brief description of the tool in terms of the structure, the type, the item questions, or what it will want what the questionnaire will be out to collect, which kind of information. Then at the point of piloting, there is a very good statement which I enjoy when you say the piloting shall be carried out in 2 schools randomly selected before the actual collection of data for the study. The 2 schools shall be among the schools selected for the study. Please, this one, make sure you don't forget to answer this one. Justify why you would want the two schools to be among the sample schools that the actual study will be carried out. Then there is a use of test-retests as a technique when you are looking at the coefficients. The question is, how reliable is this test-retest, or don't we have any other better ways? Many times when you have come to me with the same questionnaire and 1 week down the lane you come to me again, personally I'm not very comfortable attending to the same questionnaire again. Maybe you will justify why test-retest is there. And then at the point of reliability, you mentioned that you are going to use Pearson correlation coefficient to confirm reliability. You are spreading rumor in research. How will you do it, and what will be the acceptable level? Maybe if you could tell us some of the issues that arises. And then please explicitly tell us how you will analyze the data using which statistical tools that you are going to analyze which data and why. Then lastly, as I finish, your document that I've read is dated October 23rd, I think, or October 2023, last year. Today is May 2024. It's more or less 8 months down the memory lane, and looking at the format, the structure, and what is within that document, is it possible that you realized we had a presentation and Wamanga, you quickly pulled down this presentation and just uploaded? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wangila. I forgot to say that Dr. Wangila is the current chair at CIT department. Asante for that comprehensive review of Amos' work. Amos, kindly respond to the key issues that Dr. Ari has raised.
Thank you. I'll start at the point of why Kakamega, why Form 3s, and the source of the information. Kakamega County, it has got both the urban and the rural setup, where we have the Lurambi sub-county and the Kakamega Central, which has the features of both rural and urban. That is why we chose Kakamega. And then why Form 3 students? Physics, you realize, is an optional subject, and Form 3 students will be more desired for this particular research because they would have already selected the subject at the end of Form 2. And then, of course, the source of this particular data is from the Ministry of Education offices at the Kakamega County level. And then I think to respond to that particular case, I think it will just be a miss from 3.4, why we're using past participle. I think it's something we can we were well guided, and I can just work on it.
Now, Omanga, just before you proceed,
Yes, Dr.
every county headquarter or every urban center, sub-urban center, per urban center will have what you are saying. They will have both rural and urban school settings. The question is, why specifically Kakamega? Why not Busia? When you go to Busia, doesn't it have such characteristics? When you go to Bungoma, doesn't it have such characteristics? Get to Kisumu. The question, you've not answered that question still. But proceed.
Thank you, Dr. Then about from 3.4, I think the issue would just be on the typo, and it's something that we can work on so that the tense can be checked, so that it is in the future tense. Study population and target population. I think the study population and target population is the same thing. I've taken notes so that I'll have to make a review on that. The date, I want to believe maybe when I was sharing that particular document, I had not done the edit on that particular top page for the month, because I think I last presented at the school again in October 2023, but then it's a mishap. Thanks for having the third eye to see that. I had not seen that, and I think I'm making the correction with respect to that. How would we measure the extent? It will be determined in the research tools. Like, for example, right now we are saying students are not opening schools till further notice. From this particular research, if we are able to establish if from the status of the adoption and the extent of the implementation, why would we ask students to stay at home until further notice, when we would now say instead that let virtual classrooms take over from that particular moment? Maybe we'll not be having that particular problem today. On the use of telephony in schools and internet, in my target population, we have got students who are in day schools and those who are in boarding schools. For some of those schools who are boarding, maybe they are able to access internet in their schools. And for those maybe who are not in boarding schools which have internet, the assumption will be that they might be able to access ICT tools and devices while at home. On the aspect of very many headings in chapter 2, very much noted, and I think if I were to share my most results, I think we've done a lot of cleaning in that moment. The titles were too many, some of them were just repeating themselves, and that one I'm very much well guided at that time.
Chair, before we finish, I had wanted him to specifically remember to answer one, and as he prepares himself, I had forgotten to talk about the tools. The tools, well, your work is not having page numbers. I cannot quickly take you, but I want to look at the principal interview guide and item number 8, where you are asking the principal, have you been trained in virtual classroom? My concern is this an area of training in our curriculum or in teacher preparation? Then in the same tool, item number 10, you are asking the principal, do you have an ICT policy to guide and promote use of virtual classroom or video conferencing, whichever? The question is, do we have even a national policy on the same? Do we have a national policy on the same? And more importantly, item number 11, which again is, there is another question. You are asking, do your school have a computer teacher or computer teachers? One thing is that while computer is an in thing, it is erroneous to assume that every school offers computer. Suppose the school does not offer the computer as a study, and the school does not have that teacher. Does the response to the questionnaire item therefore stop henceforth? That is the point that is required. And when you look at that question, it is also similar to question number 6 in the questionnaire for physics teachers. You are asking the teacher, have you been trained on how to use computers? Suppose the answer is no. Then are the subsequent questions that follows applicable? Please, thank you.
Thank you. Maybe if I attempted to respond that time. About the training, you understand that after the COVID-19, several institutions, including the KICD and Semester, undertook teachers, what we call the retooling, through integration of ICT in the teaching and learning process. And at one particular moment, school principals were also invited, and they were also trained by the same Center of Mathematics, Science and Technology East Africa, Semester. So maybe the question in the tool would just be able to find out if that particular teacher or principal has had an opportunity to attend some of the workshops that have been organized by several stakeholders, KICD and Semester for that matter. Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Proceed, Dr. Angila.
The question on the 2 schools for piloting, or I missed it out when you responded to that.
No. Sorry. I didn't respond.
Yeah.
Why 2 schools to be among the schools sampled?
Yes. You could justify that. You could give us a new research insight.
Why the 2 schools? I thought when I was doing this was that the 2 schools will really give me the parameters with which I'm going to work with. If the 2 schools were within the area, they actually was supposed to be the 2 schools to be within the area of research, not necessarily to be the 2 schools that are already sampled for this time. So that I'll get the exact experiences with which the study I'm going to handle.
Okay, proceed. Proceed. Yes, proceed. Chair, I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Angila. Thank you, Amos. I wish to open this up to the boardroom, and the first to go would be members of faculty. I can see Dr. Aura's hand is up. So Dr. Aura, and then I think Dr. Musera will come. Dr. Aura.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Okay, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Amos, for the presentation of your work. Chair, my first comment, I would want to preserve it for the time when we shall be only us minus the students. I have something I want to comment about. But I want to make a few comments on Amos's presentation. One, he talked about efficacy of integration of virtual labs in the classroom, in the implementation of the curriculum of physics. But along the way, he starts talking about effectiveness. I want Amos to know that there's a whole difference between efficacy and effectiveness, and therefore the 2 words cannot be used interchangeably. Again, looking at his title, one cannot easily tease apart the variables. And 2, being a descriptive survey study, Amos clearly indicated the variables of the study and gave 3 categories of the variables. He talked about dependent variables, independent variables, and intervening variables. From that statement, I started thinking about maybe an experimental study, a study that has hypotheses to be tested, which I did not see. So I would want to know what was the use of highlighting intervening variables, dependent variables, independent variables, when you are not going to manipulate any, and when you are not going to even control for any. It appeared like it was going to be a control setup, a type of study, which ended not being one. 2, on target population and the sampling procedures and so on, I saw students are involved. First of all, we have schools, and then students are involved, teachers are involved, principals are involved, or were involved. This proposal will be involved. My question is, what is the unit of analysis in this study? And what was the purpose of including students? Because in your presentation, I've not had any mention where now data from students will be analyzed. My next concern is on the problem. What exactly is the problem that necessitated this study? It did not come out. I do not know whether it is the issue of teachers not implementing virtual labs in school or in physics curriculum, or whether there is poor performance as a result of teachers not using virtual labs. It did not come out clear. So I'm not sure of the problem that was being studied, because now he even mentioned about how effective the virtual labs are. Then it takes us back to the title where he was talking about efficacy. Then on the analysis, again, it needs to come out very clearly how you will analyze, even not just analysis. Before you go to analysis, it needs to come out very clearly how you're going to collect your data. And that means the research objectives are not so well conceptualized. They are not stated in measurable terms, and therefore it may be very difficult collecting data that may be any form of analysis. So I think you'll start with restructuring your objectives a little better than what you have done. Then now it becomes easier for you to collect data that you can go ahead and analyze. Thank you, Chair. That's what I can add to what the reviewer had said.
Thank you, Dr. Catherine. I'll ask Dr. Msera so that when Wamanga is responding, can respond to the key issues that came out of those. So let's have Dr. Msera.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, members of the faculty, and thank you, the presenter. I think one of my concerns Dr. Aura has already raised, but I want the presenter to go up to the title, because I feel it's still ambiguous in the sense that one, it does not cut off completely. The title is there, so you might not understand whether this study will be done worldwide, within Kenya, and so on. So it looks more ambiguous. Maybe they need to add something on it so that they can make it specific. Implementation of physics curriculum, so where? I think it is prudent, whether they are doing it in Kakamega County or in Kakamega sub-county, so to speak. But my question again follows up on what Dr. Aura has raised, and what the main person who actually looked at this work raised between the independent and the dependent variable. Amos, I would be glad to hear from you. How would you measure your outcome variable, which I believe, and you are still struggling with it, which I believe it's implementation of physics curriculum. So what or how will you measure that outcome variable? I'm very much interested, because that will lead to what Dr. Aura was asking. What is your unit of analysis? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dr. Musera. Amos?
Thank you, Dr. Just on the title, just not clearly indicated, but it will be implementation of physics curriculum in Kakamega County, Kakamega Central Sub-County to be more specific. And then, of course, who are the players in this particular title? Efficacy of the integration. That integration should be done by the learners, by the teachers or the facilitators. So we find that they also make part of our key factor, key factors there. So we see the teacher factor and, of course, the school factors as the variables in that particular title. Maybe it is not coming out, but then we need to look at who are the ones that are supposed to effect the integration. Then we look at the teacher and we look at the school. So we see those particular variables coming in out there in the word of integration. Then I think Madam Dr. Aura has guided about looking at this particular measurable objectives. We see how we can measure, and I think we can readjust them. We have been guided on that. Now, on the aspect of the problem, this particular problem is in several ways. One of the main problems in my study is we are having seamless learning of the learners. That learners are in school, and you can look at this group, especially the Form 4 of today. At some particular moment, they were affected because of the COVID-19. Today, they are also affected because of the floods as we speak. So the problem is we are having interruptions in the learning process. And some of these interruptions, we can sort them out if we integrate, if we combine both the physical classrooms and the virtual classrooms. How? If this particular research will come out and we take it that the status of adoption and the extent of implementation is well enough that can guide us, that in the event that we have a similar eventuality to today, we should not have students staying at home simply because of this, and that learning coming to a halt or a complete stop. So that learning can still go on with the use of the virtual classroom. So the gap was we have got teachers who are well trained for that, and those even not trained, we have those who just do not have a very good attitude maybe. So we want to understand what is the gap, why are we not having virtual classrooms so that learning continues in that particular manner. So the problem is an unexpected end to learning. How are we prepared? What is the stage that we have in the adoption? Are we able to proceed without the physical classrooms in the case of any eventuality? Earlier on, we had mentioned the COVID. Now we're talking about floods and maybe any other eventuality that might come, which is a pertinent and contemporary issue in our society. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully, you've been writing down those. They are very important in helping you to bring up your proposal to a good standing. Finally, there is Professor Otieno. Yes, Professor Otieno. Then after that, maybe we'll open it up to your colleagues, the students, and then we can close this session for you. Thank you. Prof, go.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've been following Amos' presentation, but there's a question that has come from both Dr. Musera and Dr. Aura on your unit of analysis. Please, you may not answer it now, but please get it right with your supervisor so that you know exactly at what point you'll be collecting your data, who is your major focus in the study. Just an observation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Well guided.
Thank you, Prof. Your fellow students in the boardroom, Is there anyone with a question or an input? Okay, we will have Dr. Matofari Go is a member of faculty.
Yes, Chair. Good afternoon. Oh, it's still morning. Still morning.
Yeah, it's still morning, sorry.
Amos.
Yes, Doc.
Are you a physics teacher?
Yes, I'm a teacher of physics.
Thank you very much. Is that probably why you chose to do this study on physics and not any other subject?
In fact, I realized that this particular study could be for all the subjects that are being implemented, because learning should go on in all the subjects, physics notwithstanding.
So I think Dr. Aura raised an important aspect of your research design.
Yes, Doc.
Why are you not conducting this study as a randomized, controlled study? Because after all, you want to determine the effectiveness of using virtual what? Classrooms.
Yes.
And if you could control and have some of your schools participate with this virtual classroom and others be taught the traditional way, because your study is supposed to run for 3 months, your data collection should run for 3 months.
Yes.
I think there is sufficient time. Why are you not going for this?
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
I'm well guided. Thank you, Dr.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other member of faculty so that I don't shut out any? Okay. There hadn't been a student, so perhaps that is it. That wraps it up for us. It's been very lively and very informative. Indeed. So there are quite crucial things there for you, Amos. Thank you so much. Hopefully you benefited from this.
Thank you very much.
Cool down so that we can transit. Again, for us in the boardroom, we had pinned a message. Go to the messages and register there. Your